Day today because of the chance for snow. Some of you have already seen flurries flying around across North Georgia and expect that snow coverage to continue to increase through the afternoon today. So as you're kind of getting up and at it this morning and thinking about how to plan your day, just know that if you are, headed to work, notice that timeline there, 3 to 5 o'clock, that is the evening commute. You'll want to pay attention to this forecast because some of your evening commute may be impacted. You may want to alter how you get home or the time you get home from work today. Maybe call it a day a little early just because you don't want to be stuck on the roadways when the snow starts to move in. Now, I will say the snow within this particular system is nothing like last week. We are not expecting the extent of snowfall totals. We're not going to have hours of that heavy snow. In fact, that's happening right now along the Gulf Coast. Record-breaking snowfall happening right now from Houston into New Orleans. In fact, a blizzard warning in effect right now until noon for parts of Louisiana, which has never happened before. So really a historic event, a record-breaking event. And for us here, that won't be the case, which we will be glad for. So again, here's a look at kind of that timeline, what to expect. We're mostly dry through the morning hours. Can't rule out a couple of flurries flying around. We've already seen it happen. Notice that flurry activity will start to increase around noon, and then we'll look up to straight up snow coming in for the afternoon into the evening. By 8 o'clock, Metro will be dry, but some of our eastern counties will still have to deal with some of that lingering snow. Here's a look at the winter weather alerts. We have a winter weather advisory for snow totals up to an inch for Metro. Of course, that includes the city of Atlanta. And then a winter storm warning for areas south of I-20. This includes Upson, Lamar, Pike, Spalding, Butts County, Jasper, Putnam County, so the cities of Eatonton, Thomaston, Griffin. You're under that winter storm warning until tomorrow morning, which essentially means your snowfall totals will be higher. The National Weather Service indicating in their briefing that that's for snowfall totals up to 4 inches. I don't think our viewing area will receive 4 inches of snow. That 4-inch threshold, I think, is more so for central Georgia, so places like Macon, Warner Robins, areas south. I think for our specific market area highlighted in pink, we're looking at more so snow totals between about 1 to 2 inches. Now, besides the snow, we're going to time that out really in just a few minutes here. It's going to be very cold today. If you've stepped outside in any capacity, even if you just briefly opened your door, you felt the cold. It's also still breezy today. So yes, it is still going to feel even colder. That wind chill definitely still a factor through the day. By noon, we're still talking feels like temperatures only in the low 20s, and you're noticing those temperatures drop very quickly. When that snow comes in, that's obviously going to keep our temperatures very cold. It's going to insulate us in the wrong way, and temperatures will feel more like the teens throughout most of the evening. So a very, very bitterly cold night tonight. Everything that you've done to winterize your home, hopefully starting Sunday night, you're going to need to continue to keep that up for the next several days because we are on right now what is over 30 hours below freezing, and we're expecting about another at least 30 all the way into Wednesday morning. So we have several more hours to go. Of course, Wednesday morning being tomorrow. I'm so lost for days. But Wednesday morning will stay below freezing. Wednesday afternoon, some of us will go above freezing, but not all of us. So again, just keep preparing your home, your pipes, your pets, your plants. Be thinking about all of that throughout the next couple of days because we are going to stay cold, and again, it will feel colder through the day today. Let's talk about that snowfall timing because I know that's what all of you are here for, right? When are we going to see snow? Who's going to see snow? I call this system almost backwards because normally the mountains have the highest chance for snow because our winter weather systems are coming in from the north. This one's coming in from the south. So it's literally a completely opposite situation where we'll see the snow surge in from the south as a low continues to track along the Gulf, bringing all that snow along the Gulf Coast. So we'll stay dry through the morning with the exception of maybe a quick passing flurry. We'll start to see more steady snow showers enter into our southwestern counties around 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon. And then notice around 3, we'll see snow extending all along that I-85 corridor and point south. Now, I do want to note, you are looking at what we call the graph model right now. It's one of our higher resolution models, right? Some models are thinking that some of at least the light snow shower activity at this point is going to spread beyond and north of I-85, so potentially into Hall County, northern Fulton County, Cherokee County, Bartow County. So this model that you're looking at, don't take it as set in stone because this is a very difficult system to forecast. We're trying to see when moisture is going to return back. Right now, the air is really dry, so if you've seen anything fall, it's all evaporated in that dry air before it could even reach the ground. the toughest part of this forecast is when is that surge of moisture going to make it back in so that that snow could continue to hold on to moisture throughout the entirety of the column of the atmosphere and give us that more potentially steady snowfall. So I don't think that this model is necessarily initializing perfectly because we have seen a pretty nice band of at least flurries setting up over parts of Metro already this morning, and this hasn't been picking up on that. So while at 3 o'clock, the more steady snowfall will be along and south of I-85, I do think this afternoon, even if you are north of I-85, you could still see at least a few flurries, but most of it won't necessarily accumulate on the ground, maybe just a trace at best for areas north of I-85. Taking you through the rest of the afternoon into the evening commute hour, 4 or 5 o'clock, we're mainly looking south of I-85. So if you commute along 75 in Pike, Upson, Lamar County, I-20 out in Newton County, Morgan County, near Jasper and Putnam County, you take the interstates or back roads to get there. Just know that snow could very well be impacting that. And of course, any of the snow that fell earlier in the afternoon could still be on some of the back roads. So something to just be mindful of. If you are commuting this afternoon, you are definitely going to want to just take it easy on the roadways. The major interstates, not necessarily going to be a problem. GDOT has just been top notch, y'all, on salting and brining the interstates, but on some of the more back roads, the less traveled areas in your community, just know that at least some light snow could be on there. The good news is we're not worried about ice, and that's what really makes travel tricky is ice. We're not worried about ice, which is good news. So it's just going to be maybe a very thin layer of snow, especially across Metro. If you are south of I-20, where that winter storm warning's in effect, your travel could be a little more difficult because you could see higher accumulations of snow. But nonetheless, around 5 o'clock, the evening commute, we could have at least a light dusting of snow on the roadways, not necessarily the interstates, but on some of your back roads throughout your neighborhood. But physical snow falling, we're talking our southernmost counties along I-75 and our easternmost counties along I-20. So if you travel on that, you might want to think about maybe making your commute home a little bit earlier tonight. By 8 o'clock, we're completely clear, and we're looking at snow showers along the Georgia coastline, which is crazy. Savannah expecting snow and ice throughout the evening into the overnight hours tonight. So when it comes to snowfall totals, highest totals are going to be along the coast. Now, these are starting from now into tonight. So, we're talking, we've already seen inches of snow in New Orleans. So add another 3 as we go through the day, another potentially close to 4 in Pensacola. But the craziest thing is the Gulf Coast is picking up more snow than we are here in North Georgia. This is just a general overview of snowfall totals. What I want you to take out of this is that we're going to see less than an inch of snow in the city of Atlanta. So we're not looking at any kind of crazy snowstorm like we did last week, but maybe a light dusting. Again, as far north as Cherokee County, up into the foothills of the mountains, you might see a few flurries, maybe just kind of a trace. But then the further south along I-20 you go, the higher those snowfall totals could be. So areas like Griffin could pick up between about 1 to 2 inches of snow, and especially our far southern counties, again, Pike, Upson, Lamar, Troup, Meriwether, you could pick up close to an inch, if not more, over the next several hours as the event continues to grow in this afternoon and evening. But the city of Atlanta not expected to pick up even an inch of snow. It looks like we'll probably be between about a trace and about half an inch of snow in the city of Atlanta. Now, the highest snowfall total could be upwards of an inch, but that's not necessarily looking likely. It's all going to depend on when that moisture surges back in. The earlier that moisture returns, the heavier those flakes are going to be, the more that we're going to have the snowflakes continue all the way to the ground and accumulate. So if the air stays dry like it is right now, then a lot of it's going to start to evaporate through the early afternoon. But if we get that big surge of moisture to come in just in time for all of this snow to start moving in, then it's not going to evaporate before hitting the ground at all, and that could lead to some slightly higher totals in the city of Atlanta. But regardless, again, I want to emphasize we're not going to experience anything like we did last week. And I do know that I am live streaming, and so I see a comment. Any chance for ice on the roadways? I'm not exactly sure when you posted this comment, but if you are still here, no chance for ice on the roadways. But of course, when it comes to snow, it's kind of like rain. It's just going to make it a little more tricky to travel on, especially if you do get some light accumulation. The highways shouldn't be an issue for you, but just, on some of the back roads to your neighborhood, just use a little extra caution. But we're not worried about ice, which is, of course, one of the hardest things to travel on. So high temperatures today, besides from the snow, obviously it's going to be cold. We talked about the feels like temperatures dipping into the teens again tonight. High temperatures obviously staying below freezing across North Georgia today, so that will promote that chance for snow. And this is the reason we're not worried about ice. It doesn't look like we're going to have any kind of warm layer to melt some of that snow and then it'll freeze on contact with the surface. It is just downright cold and freezing, in fact, in every layer of the atmosphere, and that's what you need for snow. Once you start to get some of those warmer layers entering in other parts of the atmosphere, that's when you start to see that change over into more sleet or freezing rain. Thankfully, we are not seeing that. This air mass is clearly Arctic. I know you felt it as you've made your way out and about the last couple of days. Overnight tonight, very cold. One of the coldest nights of the week, because we could also have some of that snowfall on the ground. Temperatures tomorrow going to be very, very cold in the morning. So we'll be near 15 degrees in Atlanta, potentially single digits up in the mountains, very, very cold. So you, again, want to keep your homes winterized. Something about pets, of course. I know a lot of you at home probably have your fur babies like I do. If you have a larger dog, they handle the cold pretty well. Below freezing temperatures, if they're exercising, they can stay out for about half an hour or so. The thicker breeds, like Huskies, they're used to this. This is actually probably where they thrive. But if you have a larger dog with like a thinner coat, kind of like me, my dog has a thinner coat, you'll want to, keep them outside 10 to 15 minutes or try and put a sweater on them. It makes them look cute, right? Small dogs, they can't really tolerate this cold at all, especially the thin-haired breeds like Chihuahuas, Italian Greyhounds. This is not for them, this kind of cold. So even if you're taking them out for just a little while, you want to have them layering up. Puppies, older dogs, you want to just be really careful with them too. Those are essentially sensitive groups. Like we talk about sensitive groups for humans, sensitive groups for dogs. So just be really careful. If you have any dog in any capacity, just, size, breed, age all comes into play. But you could just do like I do and just put the sweater on the dog anyway and keep them nice and toasty. Unless they're a husky, they don't need it. Their coat serves as a sweater. But I think it just adds to the cuteness of dogs anyway. So always think about your pets, okay? From a pet lover to hopefully another watching. Make sure you're taking care of them. So our first alert weather day today for the snow. It does look like while we could have a few flurries between now and lunchtime, the most widespread coverage of snow is going to be between about 2 and 5 p.m. across Metro. We're looking at maybe a light dusting areas north of I-85. Potentially some light accumulation for the city of Atlanta and along that I-85 corridor. We're looking at anywhere from a trace to up to an inch of snow, especially in East Georgia. And then as we head further south, especially south of I-20, 1 to 2 inches of snow possible, maybe some isolated higher totals as well. And we'll start to clear out by around 8 o'clock for everybody, including our far southern counties. Waking up frigid tomorrow morning. So keep those pipes dripping, all the above. We're going to wake up in the teens tomorrow morning, some spots in the single digits. We'll finally go above freezing in Atlanta tomorrow afternoon. But if we do have any kind of snow on the roadways, sidewalks, anything like that, more than likely not going to completely melt tomorrow. We'll wake up freezing again Thursday, 40 degrees for a high Thursday with cloudy skies. Lots of sunshine returns Friday. So we'll finally start to get some melting if we do have any kind of accumulation late week. And then I do want to point your attention to next week. We are looking at a first alert weather day Monday. Looks like we'll have another cold front. This is just going to bring rain. No snow, but we'll have the chance for at least a few showers, mainly Sunday night. So for the most part, if you're thinking about your weekend already, the weekend is untouched with the exception of Sunday night. And then Monday, it looks like widespread showers are back in the forecast, hence our first alert weather day. So going back to work and school next week, you just might run into some widespread showers. So something that we wanted to prepare you for. That is all for your weather forecast for the day today. Of course, we will continue to update you on air, online, First Alert Weather app, great tool to have. We've updated it countless times this morning to give you every update as we receive them. So make sure to have that handy. And if anything changes or we're starting to see some new updates, you will get them straight to your phone. All right, everyone, I'm First Alert Meteorologist Courtney Jacobazzi. We'll send it back to the wonderful Maria Moreau for more on our winter weather day here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. And yeah, as we've been talking about, and as we mentioned at the start of this, we're just off camera, situating under the same microphone. As we talked about at the start of this stream, we are waiting for remarks from Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and emergency officials. I actually want to take you inside of that room now where you can see preparations are still underway. Who you see here on camera is going to be the American Sign Language translator for Governor Kemp and the officials that will be speaking. But as you can see, we are still waiting for those folks to enter the room and begin their remarks. Again, this is all in preparation ahead of this afternoon when areas south will start to see more impact from these freezing temperatures that we've been warning about. Again, a winter weather advisory underway, as you heard from First Alert meteorologist Courtney Giacobazzi, and Governor Brian Kemp declaring a state of emergency earlier ahead of these freezing temperatures, basically to allow Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security to activate the State Operations Center and mobilize any needed resources that will be necessary in addressing some of these impacts regarding the roads, regarding the communities that could see weather-related, incidents in their area. So again, I do believe our cameras are still getting set up. Nobody has entered the room yet, but I will keep this shot up and return this graphic for you so we can follow along together as we wait for this news conference to start. Again, Governor Brian Kemp will enter this room right here along with Georgia Emergency Management officials and deliver those remarks, much like the original round of winter weather that we had earlier this month. Governor Kemp speaking about some of the response, some of the road treatments that the state had gone ahead and done on major interstates, and what they are going to be watching for as we get into those afternoon hours that Courtney mentioned. So about 250 Georgia National Guard troops have already been authorized to assist in any areas where weather impacts are being seen. They have been already put on standby and ready to respond. Emergency management officials already tracking some of those weather impacts from the freezing temperatures. If you stepped outside, you don't have to be a meteorologist to tell that it is bitter cold out there, and that is expected to get into full force. So there's Governor Brian Kemp, as well as members of Georgia Emergency Management and state officials who will be speaking now. Let's listen in.
We got everybody. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for being with us. I just want to thank Director Stallings and the GEMA team, obviously all our local emergency management partners as well. We got Commissioner McMurray and Georgia DOT here with us today, Lieutenant Colonel Kendrick Lowe, Department of Public Safety, Georgia State Patrol, Commissioner Walter Rabin, Department of Natural Resources. His team is out and about, standing by, getting ready to respond with chainsaw crews and other things if needed. Just wanted to give you a quick update on what we've done already to prepare for this winter storm. Yesterday, as you know, I issued the state of emergency for the entire state that runs through January 28th. We'll obviously be fluid on that if needed. The executive order does the same things that we did a week or so ago. Authorizes up 250 members of the Georgia National Guard if needed. Lets DOT get to treating roads and things that they've been doing since Sunday. And this is a large area that Commissioner McMurray will give you an extensive update on what's different about what we're facing now versus what we faced a week ago. Also, to help them be able to move around easy and easily deploy other state assets, we closed state offices, including Capitol Hill today, giving most of our managers and team leaders discretion on whether to open or not, depending on where they are in the state, but just trying to keep people off the roads, let all our folks that we need to be available to focus on preparation. So we got that going on. Also, GEMA and Director Stallings will give an update to close this out, but we're in constant local contact with the EMAs and coordinating with a lot of state agencies, not just on snow and ice and participation, but also things like rural water as to freezing pipes and other things. We've got local warming stations are active, and then also obviously our utility partners are standing by in case we have power outages and other things. So we're going to let Will Langston give you a weather update, because this is really kind of a moving target. It's a lot different from what we were dealing with last week. So we'll let Will do that. Then we'll let Commissioner Murray talk to you about what his team's doing to prep and be ready. Director Stallings will wrap us up, and then we'll take your questions. Will?
Thanks, sir. So we're already starting to see some snowfall show up on the radar in Georgia. We're starting to see it move through southern Alabama, reaching the ground. We're seeing some snowfall reports there. That's expected to continue to move into Georgia throughout the morning and into this afternoon. It's going to take a little bit of time for the snow to reach the ground because the air is so dry it has to actually be saturated to hit the ground. So we could be seeing it on radar throughout the day, but it might take a couple hours or so to actually reach the ground. But once it does so, it could start to accumulate quite quickly, and road conditions could deteriorate pretty rapidly this afternoon as it moves in. There's a winter storm warning in effect for all of central and south Georgia. Counties under the winter storm warning could receive up to 5 inches of snow this afternoon and evening. And then parts of North Georgia, including all of metro Atlanta, are under a winter weather advisory. That is for up to 2 inches of snow this afternoon and evening. Anywhere that we see snowfall accumulate, we could see, like I mentioned, roads deteriorate very quickly because the air temperatures are going to be near or below freezing and ground temperatures are just above freezing. That snow could melt and then instantly refreeze, similar to past weather events that we've had in the state. So I'd encourage you to stay off the roads this afternoon and evening if at all possible. Because the temperatures tonight are going to be so cold, anything that sticks today is going to stick around tonight and tomorrow. We're going to get a lot of sunshine tomorrow, which hopefully will help to melt and dry what falls, but it's not going to be very much above freezing, so we could see these impacts lingering through Thursday morning as well. This could be a multi-day event. It is a statewide event. We're not typically used to seeing snowfall amounts like this in middle and south Georgia. We could see snow anywhere in the state, but the highest amounts are forecast to be in central Georgia and parts of south Georgia this afternoon and evening.
Thank you, Will, for that update. The Georgia Department of Transportation started efforts Sunday morning to basically pre-treat the entire state, starting with our interstates and our critical routes. And we indeed have done that from Florida to Tennessee and from Alabama to South Carolina. Again, focusing on the interstates and the very high volume critical routes first. So we have done what we can in efforts to get ahead of this very large, impactful potential for winter weather. And so now we're at the time of seeing the forecast change a little bit and seeing some increase in snowfall, especially in middle and southwest Georgia. And so we're beginning to reposition some of those brine tankers and move them a little further south to try to be able to respond to the freeze or melt and refreeze that Will just talked about in the next day or so. This is, again, a large potential for impact. I have to remind everybody that we cannot be everywhere at once. In fact, the I-20 below area consists of almost 25,000 miles of roadway if we were to treat just 2 lanes. To give you some perspective, that's driving to L.A. and back to Atlanta 6 times. So this is a very big event. We have 448 snow plows with people ready to go when the winter precipitation starts to fall. But it's just going to take a lot of time to clear that bigger roadway. And again, in areas that are not traditionally getting snow. And so we will continue to be agile, look to shift our resources in the directions that we need to go as this snow comes in and potential for freezing rain or ice in the very south part of the state. We see pavement temperatures now from I-85 north being below freezing, but I-85 south to all the way to the state line being above freezing at the moment, which again gives us concern as the snow comes down that it will melt and then refreeze very fast. So this is very reminiscent of what happened in 2014, of where that happened, which causes tremendous travel impacts. Now, what's different from 2014 is obviously we've got a good layer of brine down on most of all the roads. Again, the interstates, the critical routes we are addressing, and we'll continue to address the other state routes across the entire state. This is just going to take time. And so we're asking everybody to just please give time. That means stay at home, try to stay off the roadways. We've seen metro Atlanta traffic volumes be down just slightly this morning as the state of emergency works, of people sending the message for people to stay home and stay off the roads, and statewide down about 20%. But we really need that cooperation so we can do our job once the snow comes in, and we have a big territory to cover, and we'll stay with it until we can finish and make sure it's safe. But again, just be weather aware and make sure that you're seeing what's going on and trying to stay off the roadway so we can do our job. Now I'd like to turn it over to Director Stallings.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor, Commissioner McMurray. It's extremely important that the Governor did declare the state of emergency early. What does that do for us? That gives us the ability to start pre-positioning. And so we put out a lot of assets. As Commissioner McMurray mentioned, we learned some lessons from 2014. Some of those were getting assets closer to the area, the impacted area, but also taking, you can't get behind a storm like this. We mentioned that last week, and it's extremely important for this event as well. But something else that's important to mention is that not only are we monitoring road temperatures, we're also monitoring ground temperatures. And currently right now, those ground temperatures, 4 to 6 inches under the ground, are just a few degrees above freezing. And so as this cold temperature settles, there's going to be a concern for water pipes under the ground. So make sure that if you are in your home, you get those pipes, get those faucets dripping. Go ahead and start that preemptive action. As we saw 2 years ago during Thanksgiving, when we have these extended periods of single-digit and teen temperatures, there's a lot of water pipes that are going to bust. It's going to be in the walls and things of that nature. So make sure that we continue to focus on that. Our critical patients are extremely important. Our sensitive communities. If you have loved ones that are up in age, keep an eye on them. If they lose power over the next couple days, that needs to be addressed quickly. So we've pre-positioned generators so that we can work with communities. We do have one report of death as a result of hypothermia from a critical needs patient that got outside last night. Unfortunately for that family, that's the exact situation that we're talking about. So we want to make sure that we're focused on that recovery and that quick efforts, so we're taking that very seriously. And finally, the last thing I want to mention to you, and it's been mentioned again, is give us space. We need that space to work. Those miles of roads don't clear themselves. We've got to get those trucks out there. We've got to get involved. As you might imagine, South Georgia's not accustomed to a lot of snow and ice, and so it's different there. The roads are different. There's a lot of dirt roads that have to be treated differently than just snow plows and brine and things of that nature. So we're going to have to focus on that and making sure we give a proper recovery, but GEMA's certainly here standing by with the Governor's direction. Warming stations, you can go to our website, gema.georgia.gov. There's a list of warming stations and needs and things of that nature. Also following our social medias, we ask that you in the media please share that stuff. As you might imagine, this is, yes, it's a metro event, but your market's not necessarily covering everywhere that this is going to hit. So the more you share it, the more we can get the word out. So we appreciate the cooperation. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you, Director Stallings. We'll open it up for questions if anybody.
This is the real deal. This is not a drill. This is what was forecast as being almost the worst case scenario is coming. Is that an accurate assessment?
Well, that's one reason I wanted Will to go early in the press conference versus wrapping us up like last time, because I think this weather is so different from last time. We've got a much bigger area like we dealt with Hurricane Helene. It's just a lot wider than most normal storms that we have. We also have the ability, the line, as Will talked about, when you think about from Columbus, Macon, Augusta, and then the metro line, which is really kind of Atlanta to Athens and Gainesville. There's a big difference in those two lines. You're talking 4 to 5 inches in middle Georgia and below, and then a couple of inches in metro Atlanta. But if those things shift just a little bit, it can create a lot of havoc. So us, like Commissioner McMurray was talking about, trying to prepare and trying to treat and then trying to respond to such a large area is going to be much different than we saw last week when we just had, quite honestly, some nice snowfall in metro Atlanta. People stayed home and enjoyed that in the morning before things got really cold. This is kind of the reverse of that. It's really cold now, so as soon as we get participation, like Will said, if that participation hits the ground, melts, and then refreezes, all of a sudden you're going to have a lot of chaos out there on the roadways. That's why people are riding around now but maybe thinking, why are y'all warning us about this? But this could deteriorate very quickly, like it did in 2014. That's what we're trying to avoid. Number one, with messaging for people to adhere to our advice, and I thank them so much for doing that our last storm, but also us getting ahead of things like Russell was talking about. The brining that we've been doing since Sunday to help prepare will be helpful, give people time to get moved, get home, get situated. But if this thing hits like it looks like it's coming, and we do get, 3 to 5 inches of snow in a Columbus, Macon, Augusta line, we're just going to have a big territory to be dealing with in rural parts of our state. And lastly, like was mentioned earlier, our local communities in that part of the state and south are just not prepared like people are in the metro Atlanta and up in the northern part of the state.
So you've got exponentially more equipment than you had in 2014, right? But that fuchsia area on the map behind you is huge. Are we going to be spread thin in spite of all that?
Well, I can just tell you this: we're going to give it everything we got with everything we got. Arch.
Governor Kemp, could you also talk about you mentioned about the population that are most at risk and what they need to know? People who are watching now, should they stay in terms of I think there were the 4 Ps. Could you walk through people again, just so that they know how to be prepared, please?
You want to talk about that?
So, in preparation, thinking about the next couple days, this is not a run on grocery stores. It's not a go buy all the bread, milk, and eggs that you can get your hands on event. This is going to be with us for 36, 48 hours. As I said in the last storm, most everything you've got in your house right now is fine. You'll be just fine. It's more about preparing yourself for the water freezing, your pets being outside, things of that nature. Also preparing your phones. Go ahead and charge those devices should you have a power outage. It's also important that you're thinking about a plan should you lose power. How are you going to warm? So go ahead and get blankets out. Using smart heater and generator safety. Don't run those generators in garages. Keep it away from windows. So basic understandings of how to get through the next few days. The temperatures are cold, but turning those faucets on and doing simple preparations are the key to getting through this event.
What time should people be off the road? We all remember 2014, folks being stuck on the roadways. So what time should they be off the road?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. Will, I don't know if you got noon. Yeah. You want to talk, just recap one more time, kind of what we're seeing in the weather?
So the reason it's difficult is, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to take some time for that snow to reach the ground. But the concern is that once it does, it could start to accumulate very quickly and cause roads to not be passable in very short order. So I would say in the metro area and parts of middle Georgia, you probably want to be where you're going to be for a couple days by noon today. Early afternoon at the latest, because we'll start to see things rapidly deteriorate this afternoon.
Well, the north edge, if you can estimate, the counties closest to Metro Atlanta, what do you think the north edge will be for that 3 to 5 inches you mentioned?
So for the 3 to 5 inches, the winter storm warning area, so probably south of Metro, but you could get pretty serious impacts from just an inch or two, which is the winter weather advisory area. Right now, models are indicating maybe the I-85 corridor on the north and east side of town might be where that delineation occurs, but it's really difficult to forecast, and there's going to be a gradient. There will be a point where one county gets nothing and the next county gets an inch or two. It's very difficult because you're talking about maybe tens of miles between nothing and a lot.
Speaking of we talked about potential for a power outage. Governor, has your office had any conversation with utility companies about a contingency and how to best, go after that if it happens?
Well, that's why we do the early state of emergency. Director Stallings mentioned about that. The operations center's up. We got our team here. We're already in communications with our partners, Georgia Power, EMCs, our city electrics, local emergency management agencies, rural water. I mean, we're treating this like, any other storm we got. We're in touch with all our partners, all our private sector partners, all our resources, and, they're ready to deploy. I mean, they're thankfully, we have a battle-tested team, not only here, but also our utility partners are as well, and we certainly saw that in Hurricane Helene.
When next could we see at the Atlanta airport, sir?
I don't know who's more qualified to answer this, but we're already seeing up to 90-minute delays. A lot of folks leaving from the college football playoff. Can anyone talk about that?
Well, I'm just glad this storm's coming midday, not this morning, to help get our visitors out of town. Great celebration last night for the college football playoffs, being back here for the second time in the CFP area. I haven't really heard a whole lot of updates from the airport. I mean, they're obviously used to dealing with winter weather as well. There's been a lot of logistical challenges with everything that was going on in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Certainly we're feeling that some here, but also from the playoffs. But right now I think everything's operational at the airport. I know they're doing just like we are. They're preparing, and they'll be ready, and then we'll just keep you guys updated when we're getting reports from them.
Mr. Langston, what about first responders? When people are worried about making sure they can get an ambulance or someone out to help them, what is your message to those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that's another great reason to stay off the roads today, because if you get in an accident, you might be hindering first responders from getting to where they need to go. So again, my message would be to try and get to where you're going to be for the next day or two by early this afternoon, and give the Department of Transportation the room that they need to do their work on the roads, but also stay off so that first responders can get where they need to be.
And I think there's a really good point there that we've talked about a lot is by people staying off the roads. If let's say we got tractor trailers that are having to move fuel or whatever else coming through the state, and they have an accident or experience something like we saw up on 285 in the last storm. We had very little of those last storm. In 2014, we had them everywhere. And so you can't get to people to get them moved so you can keep brining, so you can keep plowing, so you can keep putting salt out. So the less people we got on the roads, if we do have something like that happen, it allows us to get to those people, clear that roadway, which is imperative if we're trying to get fire trucks or ambulances and our first responders to people that need them. So again, I know it's aggravating dealing with these things, but if people can just do what they need to do in the next hour or so, limit their travel, as Director Stallings said, give people plenty of space between you, so if you get caught out there and things deteriorate quickly, you can respond and react. And let's just, hunker down for a day or so and get some sunshine and warmer weather back in here.
Colonel, for those people who may unfortunately find themselves on the road, could you give us some basic driving tips?
Well, during this time, we ask them to slow down and be patient. If they choose to get out and have to drive in this type of weather, we will have troopers and motor carriers out to assist motorists. If they get stranded out, we'll have them out to assist with motorists and work accidents if needed throughout the state.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. We'll keep you updated.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, and as you heard from Governor Kemp himself saying, do not take this storm lightly, that you do want to make sure that you are preparing yourself, your families, your car, your home ahead of the weather impacts as we expect to get into the afternoon hour. This is a QR code that will take you to our Atlanta News First Alert Weather app. It is an important tool, especially right now, that we want you to have on your phone and ready to go. It will give you hour-by-hour updates and more closely impacts in your area. So if you are having severe weather impacts, it will use your location and tell you what you can expect near you in your community. So it's very useful. It is handcrafted by our team of meteorologists, 7 meteorologists here at Atlanta News First that we have that give all of their knowledge and all of their expertise and information and minute-by-minute updates into that app so that you can have a personalized understanding of the weather around you. So it's a great tool to have. You can scan that QR code right there and download the First Alert Weather app. You can also search for it under Atlanta News First Alert Weather. And again, we will continue to keep you updated through that app, through our stream right here on Atlanta News First Plus, and as well as on air and online at atlantanewsfirst.com.